If you crack first, Dave, it won't make you any less of a man.
I'm nowhere near cracking.
Neither am I, my friend.
Dave. And oh, Matthew, what is it now? For God's sake, no one's smoking, okay? But nothing! You know what we need around here is an anti-whining ordinance. So just sip your sniveling little lip and haul your skinny ass out of here!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and I've got some comic industry news. Now, today we're going to be talking Marvel Comics. I have been feeling a little bit under the weather, so some things stacked up on me, but we're going to get to that today, and hopefully we will clean the slates and be ready for next week, and maybe I'll be able to get a review or two out. Unfortunately, like I said, I was not feeling well, but I'm feeling better and trying to get caught up. Now, we're going to talk about the next big event. Did you know we're getting another Carnage event? It is true. We're getting Extreme Carnage. Maximum Carnage wasn't enough. We've got Extreme Carnage coming up. Also, we have a legendary Marvel Comics artist returning from DC Comics. Will he be returning to Spider-Man? We shall see. I'll get into those details. Also, we've got some big delays. I hope you weren't looking forward to the new Predator series because that has been pushed out a long ways. And we also have some other big-name projects, really high-profile comic book series that have been delayed as well. One of them is officially basically going to be delayed a year by the time it comes out. Before I get into the details of all this wonderful Marvel Comics news, I do want to say, if you like comic book news, reviews, opinions, debate, Thinking Critical YouTube is likely the place for you. That's what we do here on this YouTube channel. So if that is your thing and you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy this video, thumbs down if you don't. Now let's get into the details. First up, we've got Extreme Carnage. Now I imagine you're wondering, is this going to be Donny Cates' next big project? Now we know that he is leaving Venom after the King in Black event, which would take him away from the Carnage symbiote focused universe. And this is actually going to be written by Phillip Kennedy Johnson, and it's going to be a storyline centering on the 5 Life Foundation symbiotes as they battle Carnage in the aftermath of King in Black. And the event is going to kick off with an Extreme Carnage Alpha one-shot. And this is what Phillip Kennedy Johnson had to say. After King in Black, everything we thought we knew about the symbiotes will have changed. Every man, woman, and child in the Marvel Universe will finally understand the massive threat the symbiotes represent, and the symbiotes that are still among us are now in the crosshairs of some extremely angry, scared, and powerful forces. In the pages of Extreme Carnage, we'll not only explain what Carnage is in this new post-King in Black era, but also see a return to form for the deadliest symbiotes that have ever lived while putting them on a lethal new path to the future. Now, if you look at the teaser art, there's clearly a new symbiote that is being teased that is going to be teaming up with Venom and some of these other symbiotes that we're seeing here. And I imagine that's one of the big selling points of it. I don't know if we had enough symbiote and Carnage related event books in the last 24 months. So we had, so in October, November 2019, we had Absolute Carnage. We've got King in Black going on right now, which has already been delayed a couple of times. It should be ending, I believe, in April, or maybe I think it's April. And now we're going to be getting Extreme Carnage, which is the third symbiote Carnage event in 24 months. Feels like a bit of overkill. Also, I think one of the big selling points of the first 2 events was likely the inclusion of one Donny Cates, and he is no longer associated with this. So I believe they might be wheezing the juice a little bit too tight on this symbiote thing. You know what would make us miss the symbiotes and be excited for the new generation of symbiote stories? If we missed them. Maybe if they went away for 6 months and we didn't really think about symbiotes other than Venom. Obviously, he's going to have his own series. I believe they're going to be rebooting it. Some people think it'll be King Venom. We shall see after Venom. Is it 200? I think it's Venom 200. We'll talk about that here in a minute. So this is Marvel basically standard operating practice. You take an idea, you get people excited about it, it sells better than you anticipated, and then you bleed it for everything it's worth. It is basically a husk of its former self by the time you're done with it. And then you go, where'd the enthusiasm go? They've done it with X-Men. Obviously, they haven't completely bled the sales dry yet, but they're clearly on their way after we're getting Hellfire Gala after Ten of Swords. We're going to get another X-Men event later this year. There's going to be 2 X-Men events every single year, including Hellfire Gala, if you didn't know that. I don't know that I have mentioned that on the channel. This is just Marvel being Marvel. They're going to take the idea, they're going to destroy it, and then they're going to move on to the next idea that they can rehash and destroy as well. After King in Black, and Absolute Carnage, don't know that Extreme Carnage is really necessary, especially without Donny Cates. Now, me personally, I am a big fan of Phillip Kennedy Johnson. We certainly advocated him many times here on the channel. I really liked his Last God. We shall see what happens with Superman. It's starting a little bit slow for me. Same thing with his Alien, but we've only had 1 issue of that. But I like the creator. Why not wait 6 months and try something like this? Feels like it's too much too soon to me, and he's inevitably going to be compared to Donny Cates and what he was doing with Carnage before then. Give him some time so people can miss the character and maybe embrace Phil Kennedy Johnson rather than outright reject him because he's not Donny Cates. How about that? All right, now that we got that out of the way, John Romita Jr., the man who became a comic book legend by replacing his father on Spider-Man, is returning to Marvel Comics after a 7-year absence. Obviously, he's been over at DC for quite some time. These are not his peak years as far as performance. His art isn't nearly as good as it was back in the day, and it felt like, at least for the last few years at DC Comics, that maybe his heart isn't in it. These aren't the characters that he really loves, that he has a passion for. John Romita Jr. was a very poor fit, in my opinion, for Superman. It just never worked, whether it was Superman Year One, whether it was Action Comics. It wasn't a very good fit. Probably the most recent comics at DC that he's illustrated that were pretty okay. I think his first few issues, I think of Silencer, were pretty good, but unfortunately for him, he got replaced by Victor Bogdanovich, and it was much better. But he did some fill-in issues for Batman on Tom King's run that were, at least when they were outside in the rain, they were pretty good. Unfortunately for him, at that time, Batman was being illustrated by like Clayman, Jorge Fornes, Mitch Gerrits, Michael Yadin. So it was the lower quality of the group, but the group, like, those artists are awesome. But his work on those fill-in issues was pretty decent. It was a better fit for his artistic style. But just looking at the teaser art that we're getting, it's better than when he was doing at DC Comics. The last piece of art at DC that I can remember that he did was the Darkseid reveal in, I think it was Infinite Frontier #0, and it looked like Darkseid was wrapped in an enormous diaper, and he was bad. But this promo piece that he did here with all the Marvel characters, we got Monica Rambeau, Doctor Strange, we got all of them here. It looks much better. He looks like he's in a better place, and I hope that John Romita Jr. is reinvigorated. It sounds like he's got a project. This is what John Romita Jr. had to say about his return. Is it June or July? Let me look. July. His return is in July. I've been very fortunate more than a few times in my life, and now I can add this latest event to that list. I have returned to Marvel, the company that I started my career in, and I couldn't be more thrilled. I am literally, at this very moment, working on my next big Marvel project, and it's a blast. I am just as excited as I was when I first started, and will do my best to let the work show that again. I hope fans will see that too. So I hope this all goes very well for John Romita Jr. He is a legend in the industry, and I hope he gets that last run to really cement his status is cemented, but really go out on a high note and let people know that he's still got it. He's still in his mid-60s, so hopefully he's got a couple of years to keep going. I don't know at this age that you should be pressuring with an ongoing title, but if that's what he wants to do, he is a legend. I say let him go for it. Hopefully they got him on a cool miniseries. I know there's not a Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man, so if they would have put him on the Spidey character that he grew to fame on, you got that one out there. Obviously, he's also known for his work on Wolverine with Mark Miller, his work on Eternals. Don't imagine he'll be doing that with Asad Ribic on that series. So hopefully they got an exciting project with a good writer. I'm hoping it's a mini-series. Good for John Romita Jr., good for Marvel Comics, and hopefully he's got a few more legendary comics put in him. And I am rooting for him. Just because I was not a fan of his work there at the end of DC Comics, does not mean that I'm not a fan of the man and I don't respect his career. So congratulations, John Romita Jr. I hope it works out for you. Now we've got some delays. The big one is we know that when when Disney bought the Fox Studios, they got the rights to like Predator and Alien and stuff like that. Well, Dark Horse had the licenses for those comic books. Once those licenses expired, Disney brought them over to Marvel, which makes sense. They brought the Star Wars properties over as well when their license expired with Dark Horse. And we've already got the first Alien issue, and they were announcing what they were going to do with Predator. We knew that we were getting a new Predator series by Ed Brisson, which I'm excited for. And I think it was going to come out in June. Well, that's been scrapped, but that is not the only thing that's been scrapped. Basically, anything to do with Predator is off the books right now. The Omnibus Collection and the Marvel vs. Predator variant covers, those have all been delayed until November. That does kind of coincide with the Penguin Random House deal. I wonder if that has something to do with it. So if you were excited for the Predator Omnibus, which I imagine a lot of people were, that's going to be coming out in November. We'll get those variant covers in November, and we will get this Ed Brisson Predator series in November. So I hope you weren't too excited for Predator. It will arrive, but it will be coming much later. Now, next, we've got a lot of other delays as well. Some of these have already been delayed multiple times. And now we've got Venom 35, also known as Venom 200, the last issue of Donny Cates on Venom. Was initially scheduled for 14 April to follow King in Black. Then it was delayed until 5 May, and now it has been delayed until 6 June. 2 months after the last issue of Venom, which would be number 34, I think it came out this week, will have been published. That is crazy. I can't believe that they're having all these delays. And let me put this out there, like all this stuff that's happening, this will not be tolerated, as from what I understand, under Penguin Random House. They are very big sticklers for the schedule. If you schedule, you're going to get it out during the schedule, and if you don't, we're going to have problems. So hopefully this is just Marvel getting their ducks in a row, getting ready for Penguin Random House, to where that they're basically a well-oiled machine and giving the comic books on time, and there aren't going to be any delays, because from what I understand, there will be hell to pay. But that is not the only comic book that's going to be 2 months between publishing. X-Men 20 was originally solicited for 12 May, is now solicited for 26 May, and will be published 2 months after X-Men 19. The comic book, which I hear made some people cry. I'm a little bit surprised about that one. Obviously, we will be reviewing that right here on the channel with Doc on Sunday. So 2 whole months in between X-Men issues. Isn't that insane? And I believe, is X-Men 20 is the one with Nimrod on the cover. That's Jonathan Hickman, Jordan White. Why are you doing this to us? And now the last one is the one with the enormous delay. Black Panther 25, which is the swan song for Ta-Nehisi Coates on the Black Panther character, originally solicited for June 2020, but then was delayed due to the pandemic, was then resolicited for 28 April, is now been delayed until 13 May. A whole year to get this comic book done. Like, how do these things happen? Do you think it really took them this long to get the comic book done, or do you think because they're moving all these things around, they want to put Black Panther like to fill a hole? Because I don't know. That's ridiculous. Marvel Comics delaying a comic book for a year, especially a main character like Black Panther, for a creator that's had, whether you like it or not, Ta-Nehisi Coates and Brian Stelfreeze had a lot of influence as far as Black Panther and what Marvel have been doing with them. So it's absolute insanity to me that it's taken them this long. But there you go, Black Panther 25. If you're waiting for the finale of Ta-Nehisi Coates, you're going to be waiting until May of 2021, even though it was originally solicited in June of 2020. So there you go. Those are the big delays. Those will not be happening under Penguin Random House, from what I understand. They do not like that stuff. That will do it for today's Marvel Comics news. If you were unaware, we've got another Symbiote Carnage event happening. Extreme Carnage is coming. Donny Cates is not attached, although I am a big fan of Phillip Kennedy Johnson. I don't know that everyone's going to be quite as happy as I am. And me personally, even as a fan of Phillip Kennedy Johnson, I've got symbiote fatigue at this point. Marvel Comics legend John Romita Jr. is returning to the House of Ideas after a 7-year stint at DC Comics. Hopefully, he is rejuvenated by the characters that he loved, that really brought him up in the comic book industry and really brought him a lot of fame and accolades. Finally, we do have a bunch of delays for Marvel Comics. If you're looking forward to that first issue of Predator, you're going to have to wait till November after the Penguin Random House deal is up and running. Also, we've got some delays to big series. Venom 200 has been delayed again. X-Men 20 delayed again. Black Panther 25, the finale of Ta-Nehisi Coates' run, delayed almost a year from its original June 2020 solicitation. Thank you all for joining me, and that's your comic industry news.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.